Some teammates broke the most sacred rule any dressing room has. They slept with a teammate's wife or partner, dragging private destruction into public view. And we watched the football machine try to pretend the damage was just tabloid noise. From John Terry and Wayne Bridge to Mauro Icardi and Maxi Lopez, Ryan Giggs and his own brother, John Harkes, Michael Ballack and Paul Terry. The names are different, but the wound is identical. 6 times the line got crossed. 6 times the dressing room never forgave it. We know football loves to act like the pitch solves everything. Kickoff comes, the ball rolls, and 90 minutes gets the job done. But private damage does not need an official club punishment to be real. When personal trust breaks in front of millions, the scoreboard has no interest in who deserved sympathy. We remember these scandals because football turns private betrayal into public theatre. John Terry and Wayne Bridge turned a private allegation into football history. The allegation was brutal enough for any dressing room to swallow. Reports accused Terry of having an affair with Vanessa Perencel, Bridge's former partner. Then came February 2010 at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea played Manchester City. Bridge walked down the line and shook every hand except Terry's. He did not boycott the ritual or make it random. He did not walk down the line like a man refusing the whole club. He made one choice, one target, and one message. Terry got air. That 1 second told the whole country everything. The English World Cup year was waiting in the background like a storm cloud. England was supposed to go to South Africa with a golden generation vibe. Instead, one handshake line turned into the clearest image of a squad already cracking. Bridge knew every tunnel walk would become a test, every team meal would become a story, every little movement between him and Terry would be picked apart like VAR checking a toenail offside. He pulled out of the England squad. He said his position had become untenable and potentially divisive. Underneath that polite phrase was a man saying he could not share the camp. He stepped away from international football rather than let the circus eat the squad. Bridge lost the chance to fight for a World Cup place. Terry stood in the line as captain material while his former teammate walked past. The scandal affected selection and changed football decisions. Bridge walked down the line, shook the other hands and refused the one hand that mattered. Once he said the situation was untenable and divisive, the FA could not pretend it was just noise. The man who felt wronged was the one who had to leave the stage. Terry was surrounded by the allegation, yet Bridge stepped away from England. The handshake became the symbol, but the withdrawal became the proof. The Premier League had its own family line betrayal. Ryan Giggs was Manchester United royalty and the quiet legend. He represented discipline, loyalty, and Sir Alex standards. He was the academy dream made real with 13 Premier League titles. Then the story landed in the papers. Rodri Giggs said he found out through a newspaper. He did not hear it from Ryan or Natasha. That is where the Giggs story stops being football gossip and turns nastier. Rodri was finding pieces of his own life through the press. He said he no longer speaks to Ryan or most of his family. He felt abandoned after the betrayal. He said the family still spoke to Ryan while he was left alone. The public loves pretending footballers live by dressing room codes. This story makes all of that sound like matchday branding. Ryan Giggs had the medals and the Old Trafford mythology. Rodri had the humiliation and the silence from people who should have backed him. The affair was bad enough, but the silence after it was the second wound. Rodri gave the world a line that hits harder than any derby tackle. He said from that day, they never spoke. The real brotherhood test was not Old Trafford, it was at home. Ryan was the superstar the club always protected. Rodri was the bloke without the PR machine. Bayern Munich watched the same pattern tear through their own ranks. The scandal badly strained Christian Lell's relationship with Michael Ballack. When your private life gets dragged into the papers, the damage hits differently. Ballack was not a random squad player. He was the Germany captain, Bayern icon, and national team authority figure. Lell later implied Ballack had ruined private lives. That tells you the real anger was about family life and trust. It was one man walking through through football with the armband aura still around him. The other was left explaining why his life suddenly became gossip content. The machine at Bayern kept going. The story did not appear to cost Ballack the Germany captaincy. There was no big disciplinary hammer or public club sanction. There was no clean moment where the institution said this has consequences. Ballack's name stayed attached to leadership and German football royalty. He left for Hertha BSC by June 2010. The reports around that period treated him as a former Bayern player moving on. The scandal did not bury Lel as a footballer, but the personal relationship never recovered. We remember when one player's pain becomes his whole public identity. The captain kept the armband aura while the other guy carried the awkward question forever. It turned a private betrayal into a public football scar. Lel looked at Ballack as someone whose power made the whole thing feel worse. Ballack walked away with the legend mostly intact. Lel walked away with the fallout. The scandal sat in the gossip lane, not the sporting court. Sometimes the career survives while the relationship does not. Two careers moved on in public while one private relationship never recovered. The United States national team carried this poison into a World Cup. Steve Sampson dropped his captain John Harkes 2 months before France 1998. Harkes was the face of that American generation. Sampson originally said it was for leadership and team balance. He used all the clean football words people use when the real problem is too ugly to say out loud. Later, he admitted it had to stay in the locker room. The alleged affair with Amy Winalda, Eric Winalda's wife, became the shadow over the decision. Once that came out, the 1998 disaster looked different. Eric Winalda was part of the squad. This was not an abstract scandal floating outside the team. It touched teammates and relationships inside the room. Removing Harkes changed the team's spine. Sampson kept the details private but could not keep the squad from feeling the shock. The US collapsed in France with 3 games, no points, and bottom of the group. Trust was gone, and the pitch showed it. Every flat performance looked like evidence of a broken dressing room. Silence just makes everyone manage the tension privately. Sampson took the hit for years because the tactical explanation never satisfied people. He looked like the coach who broke the team before the tournament. Harkes lost the World Cup. Winalda became tied to one of the most uncomfortable stories in American soccer. The squad had a private fracture before the world ever saw the public failure. Removing Harkes did not reset the team. It just changed the shape of the problem. Every training session had a ghost in it. Footballers can argue over tactics, but betrayal inside the room is different. That changes the air. Lower league football saw the darkest version of this betrayal.
Rumors can run faster than truth. You are dealing with humiliation in the one place that is supposed to feel normal. Inter Milan watched their own dressing room get consumed by the noise. The Wanda Maxi Icardi saga had every ingredient football culture feeds on. In April 2014, Maxi Lopez walked down the line at San Siro and blanked Mauro Icardi. He refused the handshake. Icardi scored twice in a 4-0 win. He turned the snub into a scoreboard. They met again in 2016 and Lopez refused the handshake again. Maradona judged the situation loudly. Diego said Icardi does not exist to him. He went straight through the middle and called him a traitor. Maradona said you do not get welcomed into a teammate's circle and end up marrying his wife after the whole thing blows up. Years later, Andrea Ranocchia finally spoke about the Inter dressing room. In January 2025, Ranocchia said Wanda made Mauro do whatever she wanted. He avoided them off the pitch. Ranocchia confirmed the dressing room saw Wanda having total influence over him psychologically. Every contract war, leaked interview, and captaincy dispute became a permanent atmosphere around Mauro. Inter removed his armband in 2019. The relationship became bigger than the player. Icardi never escaped because the public did not want him to escape. Every comeback still walks through the same tunnel of betrayal. Once teammates stop seeing you as your own man, authority disappears fast. Ranocchia separated Mauro the footballer from Mauro the environment. On the pitch, he was an elite striker. Socially, he was a quiet guy surrounded by permanent headlines. The football and the betrayal were playing in the same match. The striker at the center of the scandal was scoring while the man he hurt had to take it in in public. The words Maradona used sounded like a verdict. Terry, Icardi, Giggs, Ballack, Harkes, Paul Terry, different decades, different leagues, identical wound. The dressing room saw it. The wives became collateral. The teammates never forgave it. We have watched these scandals unfold across 20 years. We knew the pattern long before the autobiographies confirmed it. Football loves pretending it can separate the pitch from the rest of life. The game demands the show goes on, but sometimes the show is the problem. Some things follow you into the dressing room and into every look from every teammate. You can have your tactics and your press lines ready, but if the dressing room trust is gone, the tournament is already bleeding before kickoff. The public loves pretending footballers live by dressing room codes, but loyalty and brotherhood sound like matchday branding when the real test happens at home. The machine keeps going and absorbs the grief. The calendar keeps moving, but the reputation never resets. Which dressing room is hiding the next fracture right now? We will look at how managers handle these specific collapses in our next breakdown.